Hey, so I want to challenge this belief and this saying that I hear and have repeated myself. I would say for many years, for decades, where you say something like, you're too old for that, or you should know better than that, or at your big old age, I can't believe you're still doing this or making these decisions. That's really not true. I think over the past couple of years of me being really committed to therapy and healing and more personal development and things like that, it caused me to really look at a lot of things that are just mass repeated, and to really challenge even more of those things. I've always been a person that's been more of a free thinker, and if it's something that's said over and over, and if it's a cliche, I just generally, there was always something in it that I didn't like. And that got me into a lot of trouble because my mouth. Growing up, I got into a lot of trouble because of my mouth. But really, it was just me challenging stuff and saying, hey, just because it's said over and over doesn't mean that that's true. It doesn't make it, a fact. Just because people, feel so strongly about it, that does not make it an actual fact. So there's that thing that's said, and it's probably been said to you, and I'm sure you probably said it to other people too, like, you should know better than that. But should a person always? And whether they should know better or if they actually do know better or are practicing better, they're all different things. And we know that we cannot base our life or our outcomes based upon what should be. There's what should be and there's what is. And people grow and develop at their own pace and in different ways. We cannot control that. The only thing that we can control is our connection or attachment to it. And I think that's where a lot of the big challenge comes from, when we are connected to people and we may love them a lot, and we know that developmentally they may not be where we want them to be. And so then there's that thing that I feel like makes a lot of us want to try to control them or push them to somewhere where maybe they just aren't ready to go, they can't go, or they refuse to go. None of that is in our control. I know that in past relationships, even in the last past relationship, which I'm still doing a lot of, I would say, reflecting on all of that. And I think it's healthy that if you have a relationship that really disappointed you or you were upset about, that you should, look at the things that you did to contribute to it. Not saying it's your fault, but, learn whatever lessons you need to learn so that going forward, however you decide to go forward, that you've graduated from that particular lesson. So, let's see. So there's that point that just because somebody says, or just because you think a person should be, beyond that or older than that, that doesn't make it necessarily true. People are going to develop at their own pace. They're going to emotionally evolve at their own pace as well. And then also it depends on their experiences. It depends on their education, what they've been shown, what they've been taught. A lot of times, whatever you see growing up, that's what you're going to repeat, even subconsciously. And oftentimes, a lot of people don't ever take control of that or even understand that they can or know how to. That plays a really big part in who you are as an adult as well. Another thing is a person actually willing to open up and to learn better, or are they kind of stuck in their ego? The ego that the toddler has where, I'm right, or whatever I want because I want it. That's how it's supposed to be. Some people refuse to ever evolve from that space. Maybe some people can't. Some people may just have some developmental delays to where they can never, and when I'm laughing, it's more of a nervous thing, not like making fun of those people. But, some people have arrested development because they don't have a choice. Some people have arrested development because they decide to keep themselves there. None of that stuff at the end of the day is in your control and is your responsibility at all. The other thing that I want to say about that is just because you can understand where a person is, it doesn't mean that you have to tolerate it. I'm saying this because we can be really tied and attached, and especially when you're emotionally attached to people, really close relatives or maybe a lover, a spouse, and you see where they could be and where you really want them to be, and because they're not there, you care about them so much. It can be very difficult to detach from that if you know that they're in a space that's not healthy for you, and you may feel like, okay, I still need to try to help them evolve or stay with them or pray through this or whatever else. It's not your job. It's not your responsibility. At the end of the day, if a person's development and their thinking and their habits and everything else is having a negative impact on you, you have to be strong enough to do what is best for you and disconnect. And it can be very difficult to do, but if you don't, then I mean, what happens when you add a negative and a positive? It brings everything down. Like, that's just fact, that's just math. And so the best thing that you can do, I think, or I believe, for that other person who is a negative for whatever reason, is to remove yourself from the equation so it doesn't take you down too. And to me, that's an act of love for yourself and them as well, because if you're there and you're trying to force them to be something that they don't want to be, then all you're doing is kind of pushing a little bit of toxic positivity on them, and just making them even angrier. If they're committed and they're just digging their heels in, there's nothing else that you can do but give them the space to learn and grow on their own, or fall on their own, or whatever. Respect the space that they're in, that they said that, respect that square that they said that they are committed to standing on. Respect that. And also respect yourself and the fact that you don't want to be on that sinking ship, and do what's best for you. You know, you are the only one that's in charge of the outcomes of your life and not theirs. And it can be really hard to do. So for people who may be struggling with having to put up some really strong boundaries, or maybe even go no contact with close relatives, particularly people who had to go no contact with, like, you know, parents, grandparents, siblings, I will say this, this is something that has helped me to manage over these past couple of years, is to remind yourself that you have decided to heal, and they've decided whatever else that they decided that's not in alignment with you. But at any time you want to try to let your boundaries down and go back just for the sake of connection and relationship, you have to remind yourself that you cannot heal in the same place that you were sick in. You cannot become well in that same situation, in that same space that broke you. Like, if that's the space that broke you, that continued to hurt you and everything else, then you can't heal in that space. You can't flourish and you can't grow. All you can do is say, this is where I'm choosing to be. I love you, but this is where I'm at. That doesn't mean that you don't love them, but you can love a person again, and you can understand the reasoning behind certain things. But if that's a place you decided to grow from, you can't tolerate it. There's a difference. You can love them, you can understand. That is not the same as tolerating it. You got to love yourself more and be more committed to what the outcomes of your life are going to be. And you know what? You never know. Maybe some people just will decide in their journey that, you know, they can be in a space with you again. But that's not, you got to let all that go. You just have to let it go and let it be what it is. And, you know, maybe you can pray and hope that it comes around. But in the meantime, you got to deal with what is, and don't worry about what should be. That is all. Have a beautiful Sunday. Bye-bye.